I move different, ride smooth, time to merge lanes. Many come and go, this life in this rap game. I move different, ride smooth, time to merge lanes. I just wanna get paid, you can have fame. I move different, ride smooth, time to merge lanes. Many come and go, this life in this rap game.
Back with another episode of the Major Music Lounge podcast. It's your host, D Dot. And today it's going to be a different type of show. Every once in a while, I like to interview other podcasters. And in this case, I'm going to be interviewing the host of the Tristian Law show, which is a wrestling podcast and show that is done on YouTube by today's guest. Tristian Law is going to join us to talk about podcasting and just some of his background overall that led him up to starting the Tristian Law show and more. One of my interests, if you're a wrestling fan, you notice the shirt is going to be professional wrestling. And I actually came across Tristian Law on Threads, and we just kind of connected over just talking wrestling back and forth. And I thought it would be really cool to have him on the podcast as well. And being a former wrestler himself, just to talk about his background and what led him up to starting the Tristian Law show. And if you're new to the Major Music Lounge podcast, I interview other music creators and also podcasters just about their journey doing what it is that they do and more. So you can follow me on Instagram or Threads at d._major music. Same thing on TikTok. And if you use X, it's going to be d.mme. And a lot of times there's been, especially these days, a crossover of like wrestlers that are also music creators. You got like Swerve, for example, in AEW. You got Chris Jericho, same thing. And opposite of that, you look at just the way that music is now compared to how it was talking 20, 25 years ago. Fans didn't sing songs in the audience like they do today. And you see Cody come out sometimes, and it's like the fans are singing his song, and that's been happening since AEW, but it's only gotten bigger, obviously, since he went to WWE because bigger audience. But you can kind of see the energy and how music is relevant in the space. And then, you look at the other side of it as well from a artist perspective. You got West Side Gun with its Fourth Row brand, and then you got also Wale, who does Wale Mania every year. So I always thought that there's some type of crossover between hip hop and professional wrestling, or music in general and professional wrestling. And just having Tristian on a podcast, we get a chance to talk about some of that and more. So let's go ahead and get into the interview. We're back with the Major Music Lounge podcast and joined by the homie Tristian Law of the Tristian Law show, which airs on YouTube, talking pro wrestling and more. What's good, Tristian? How you doing, my brother?
Good man. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here. I have not been a guest on a podcast in so long. Like, let me just knock the dust off of myself real quick. Just jumping back into the podcasting game. Everybody's been reaching out to me, and I'm glad that I'm able to sit here with you and introduce myself to your followers. And yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem at all. I've been a fan of what you're doing, and we kind of connected over professional wrestling, and I just thought it might have been cool because every once in a while I do these episodes with other podcasters just to talk about what they do and their journey, because I think it's all part of I get questions often, even like, should I get into a podcast from other creators? So kind of talking about that with you and just your background overall and what led you here. So, I kind of saw on Threads, you mentioned that you're a former professional wrestler, if I'm not mistaken.
Right on.
So, tell us a little bit about that and your background and, how you got into doing the Tristian Law show.
All right, so I'll give you the short version because I don't think your listeners, your watchers, want to sit around all day and hear me talk about to give them the long version. But here's the short version. The short version is that I wanted to be a pro wrestler when I was a kid, when I was 5. I remember coming around the corner and living in Brooklyn. I was in my apartment and I came around the corner and I stood at the room of my grandfather and I saw wrestling on the television. And I remember the Undertaker being on the television. I remember how cool that was. And I was like, wow, this is something I want to do. And I've been hooked ever since. So I've had a relationship with pro wrestling where I've fallen in love and out of love with pro wrestling. And eventually I fell out of love with pro wrestling because I was 18 years old. And what do 18, 19-year-old boys want to do? They want to chase girls. So, I chased girls and stuff like that. And then one day, now living in Florida, somebody came to me and said, one of my friends came to me and said, hey, there's wrestling at the sound stages at Universal, here at Universal. I'm like, I don't get off within enough time. And then he tells me, oh no, well, it's after we get off of work. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, he's telling me, oh, well, Jeff Hardy's there and Jeff Jarrett is there. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I said, but I'm not, really interested in wrestling. I don't have the time. He goes, but it's right after work. You can make it. I said, okay, I don't have any money. He goes, it's free. All right, you know what, bro? You got me. You got me. So I remember showing up to the event. I can't remember the name of the event of what it was. It was a TNA pay-per-view. I got to look it up. And the way I can remember what it is, that's the night that Macho Man made his debut. I was standing on the bleachers screaming at the top of my lungs like, oh my gosh, my first wrestling show I had ever been to in my entire life.
Wow.
And I was hooked like a crackhead. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now. And the next night, they were taping TNA Impact at Universal. And I said to my friend, I said, hey, you want to go? He goes, oh, I can't make it tonight. Don't worry. I still made it that next night. And after that, I became hooked. So eventually, I formulated a plan of, you know what? I wanted to do this as well, too. And what I did was I took some steps and started working out. I got a credit card and I wanted to join a wrestling school in Orlando because I lived in Orlando that Devon Dudley was attached to. A lot of wrestlers came out of that school, such as let me think of a name that you might know. Byron Saxton.
Yeah.
He was in that school.
Okay.
So I wanted to go in that school because I said, hey, I'm a black man and Devon Dudley's a black man. Maybe there's things that he could teach me, as a black man that's made it in the business. So I sent an email to the company and I didn't get anything back. Okay, great. So now I'm messing around the dirt sheets, and then I see Devon Dudley and Bully Bubba Ray Dudley opening up their own wrestling school in Kissimmee, Florida. Kissimmee's where Disney is. That's like 30, 45 minutes from my house. Why not? So I send an email, and then I eventually became a student in the school in June 2007. So after that, I moved to Florida. I moved back to New York, and I was trained further by Nunzio, Little Guido from ECW, and I sit in front of you now.
Man, that's awesome. That's quite the journey. I think I remember the event because I don't like where around that time, and I think that was around 2003, that TNA event that you were talking about, 2004.
It might have been 0304. Might have been
Yeah.
0304.
And I couldn't catch where I was living at TNA in Louisiana at the time. So I would just hear about it online and stuff. And I remember when Randy Savage had showed up because he hadn't really done anything from the time WCW closed until then. So it was kind of cool to see him back out there. But yeah, man, I think that would be a pretty cool pathway to getting into it. And I know, like, I have a friend who actually is an indie wrestler. He goes by the name of T Ray. He wrestled throughout Texas and Louisiana for the most part, but I went to school with him and I went to they actually did a show here in Dallas where I live now. But one of the things I've always respected is the grind of a wrestler, like having to stay in shape, having to be in ring shape, because it's different to be just in shape versus ring shape. You got to have cardio, you got to know how to take bumps, and a lot goes in with that. And next thing on questions, out of all the wrestlers, just kind of talking about like wrestlers generally speaking, who do you think is probably one of the better music creator wrestlers that you see out there?
Honestly, and I'm not saying this because we follow each other on Instagram, R-Truth.
Okay, yeah.
I think R-Truth is very entertaining in what he does. I think that R-Truth comes off as like, yo, R-Truth is like the funny uncle that everybody wants or everybody has. Because
Okay.
I've got a funny uncle, hilarious, and him and R-Truth sit in the same room. Oh, they would kill people because they're so funny. But yeah, definitely R-Truth is one of the good rappers, musicians out there. You can't really sleep on John Cena as well too. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
knowing that the guy grew up from the suburbs in Massachusetts, and the guy is a rapper. He's not garbage. But if you put him with toe to toe, I mean, I don't. Would he survive going toe to toe with Kendrick Lamar? Don't know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people like, and Truth kind of dialed it back. But talking about TNA, a lot of people don't remember how badass Truth was in TNA years ago. And then on top of that, dropping bars and even seeing, I got a chance out here. And you talked earlier about like falling in and out of love with wrestling at times in your life. And I think I was at one of those periods here around 2006 or so. And I was working a job at Best Buy and they were in Dallas. WWE was in Dallas for a show. And Cena came by our store to sign autographs. And I'll never forget just meeting him there. He was pretty cool. But like, yeah, that I remember I think around that same time he actually came out with that theme that he's mostly known for.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and that was just kind of cool. I almost wanted to see him start spitting right there, but couldn't make couldn't make it happen, man. Now one of the things though, like in regards to music with wrestling, like it's different now when it comes to theme songs, compared to in the Attitude Era. Because now when people come out, like Cody, for example, you hear people singing his song, from the crowd. Same thing with Jericho. Like, how do you think, I guess, music is when it comes to the whole culture of wrestling, theme songs, and fans? Like, what do you think the biggest difference is between now and back in that previous era?
So back in that previous era and compared to now, I don't think nothing's has changed when it comes to the music. The music has only evolved just a little bit more. The thing with music, if you ask me, well, let's look at wrestling for a second, then go back to music. Wrestling is all based about emotion. When I train people in wrestling or when I try to put together a match, it's not about the moves because anybody can go out there and do 100 moves. It's about the story that you tell. It's about the emotional connection. Like, for example, I've never seen Star Wars. Never. I'm not a fan of it. I've tried watching it and I'd fall asleep in it, right? Don't kill me. However, I can tell you some of the iconic scenes from Star Wars. Luke, I'm your father. Okay? That they say that may not be how it went word for word, but I remember that's a moment. So in pro wrestling, it's about creating moments, and in those moments, you have emotional investment. So when it comes to the music side now, music brings out the emotional investment in people. When I went to WrestleMania, the last WrestleMania I went to was WrestleMania 35 here in New York. Actually, no, it's not New York, it's New Jersey, across the river, across the swamp, and I never forget seeing the Usos come out and just looking around, and you feel the bass in your chest like you're at a concert. And everybody's singing along and everything like that. It's a concert, and it has emotional investment. One of the things that I like to do when I was a wrestler full time was that I didn't come out to music because music has emotional investment. I'm the heel, the bad guy. And when I come out, you go, oh my God, I love his song. And then you start clapping. No, I didn't want you to clap. I want you to come out. And I come out on the microphone. I'd hold up the mic and I said, the reason why I didn't come out with music today is because you guys don't deserve to hear my song. And they would hate me because it's all about creating that emotional investment within people. That's what pro wrestling is. Every single pro wrestling event that you can think of where you go, oh, that was an awesome event. You're not pulling moves. You're not going, oh, wow, that guy did a great punch. Unless it was when Mike Tyson punched Shawn Michaels to end that match. It wasn't the punch, it was the moment. And music extracts the emotions from the fan, which is why they sing along, which is why they feel like they want to be a part of the show. And one of the things I tell people is like, you know what? Everybody wants to be a part of something. Whether they say it or not, they want to be a part of something. And imagine you spend your hard-earned money to go see Cody Rhodes, who's your favorite wrestler. You know what? He may not be your favorite wrestler, but you know what? Everybody's singing the song. You might as well sing it too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's also like part of the emotion, and you saying that, I'm also thinking about like back then you had really good instrumentals, and the way that they begin, for example, like with Stone Cold, you heard that glass
That's
shatter.
great.
With
Yep.
The Rock, you heard, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? With
Yep.
Mick Foley, you heard that little crash,
Crash.
and then his music would hit.
And Undertaker, you get the gong.
Yeah, and like it built up that anticipation. Like Undertaker could show up on Monday Night Raw, and the minute you hear those dongs, you're gonna hear, or you're gonna hear the fans just go crazy.
Right.
And now the way that they do it is a little differently, because now there's actually lyrics with the songs, well, at least most of them, as to where you didn't have lyrics back then. And I think that's also evoking some of the emotion in the fans, because I went to actually, and we've talked about this vaguely on your platform, but like when the road leading up to WrestleMania, um when that incident with Cody and The Rock happened. But like I went to the SmackDown 2 weeks before that happened here in
Mm,
Dallas.
mm,
And I was in that arena like at the end of the night. That's when Cody and I think it was Seth. Yeah, they had confronted the bloodline. But
right.
like I remember when Cody came out, like the energy is real that you see on TV, being in the center of that, hearing all those people singing that song. And you're right, they want to feel like they're part of the show, and that's just all part of it, the experience as well. And I think that's the biggest distinction from music 20 some years ago to now.
And let me tell you this about being in the ring. Whether you're a babyface or you're a heel, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, the reaction from the crowd is addicting. It's addicting. The reason why I wanted to be a pro wrestler when I grew up and I fell in and out, I remember iconic moments like Stone Cold Steve Austin coming down the ring and dragging the belt behind him. I remember the Undertaker coming. I remember the Rock coming out, people cheering him. I remember WrestleMania, what is it? 17, 18, the one that was in the Sky Dome, and watching the Dudley Boys walk down the ramp. I actually had a TLC, a tables match. And I remember me and my partner, we dressed like the Dudleys. I dressed like Bubba because I like shorts, and he dressed like Devon, kind of. And in our own way that we did it. And I remember coming down and just walking down the ring and just thinking about them when they came down the ring. The reason why pro wrestlers hang on later than they should is because we're addicted. I've never done drugs in my life, and I'm telling you, I am addicted to being in the middle of the ring. I'm addicted to them booing me. I'm addicted to them cheering for me. I'm addicted to the reaction. Every time I see a reaction on television, like for example, last year WWE had an event, Backlash in Puerto Rico, and just listening to everybody come out with Bad Bunny and just singing his song, I get goosebumps right now thinking about it. That's what I'm addicted to. That's where the addiction comes in. I want to be Bad Bunny. I want people I want the whole entire building to boo me. But you know what? If I had a song and I was a big baby face like Bad Bunny, I want everybody to sing my song as well too.
That's how you know that you're connecting with the audience, is you got to get some kind of a reaction. You got a job as a baby face or a heel, and if you just go out there and nobody has any type of reaction, then you're in a bad place, and you might not be there too much longer. Uh, Getting to podcasting, like what led you up to starting the Tristian Law show, and how long have you been doing that?
So right now I'm currently in the third season of my podcast, and I recommend for anybody looking to create content, whether it's podcasting or videos on YouTube, take seasons because you get burnt out. When you are an independent podcaster, meaning that you don't have, iHeartRadio or some Sirius XM or somebody behind you, you're doing literally everything by yourself. You're the producer, you're the host, you're the editor, you're the graphic designer, you're the marketer, you're everything. Everything that you could think that goes into it, you're the engineer, you're everything. So you have to take a break. So I just launched season 3 after a 2-year hiatus, and I'm going full swing. How did I get here? I remember, so growing up in the Bronx, I grew up in a rough neighborhood. There's an iconic photo of Tupac floating around with him with the radio. Ever seen that photo?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Behind Tupac, there are two buildings. Those buildings burnt down in the 80s. In the 90s, they built those buildings back as one building, and I lived in that building.
Wow.
So I grew up in a tough area. And the programs that I was involved with as a young teen and as a late teen helped steer me along the way. That's why one of the things for me as a father that's important for when my son grows up is that I help steer him the right way so that the street doesn't grab him, because the street could have grabbed me. I was in the street. But one of the programs I was in, they took us to college. They took us on a college tour. And I remember going to Hofstra University in Long Island and being enamored by their radio program. They had a radio broadcasting program, and they showed us how everything in the radio worked. And I was like, I want to work on radio. This is what I really want to do. So lo and behold, life happens, and we're fast forwarding years and ahead now. I'm looking to start podcasting. I don't know what I want to start podcasting about. I go, oh, Donald Trump is president. Maybe I can do a podcast where I talk about, the highs and lows of Donald Trump. I don't really like politics like that to talk to people about it. And, I'm not going to tell people how I feel about certain people in politics, but I just didn't feel that I didn't want to be glamorizing things that should not be glamorized. So I let that one go. Rule number 1, if you're looking at a podcast, talk or create content, create about what you love. If you don't love it, don't create about it. Okay. So now I got contacted by a podcast, and they were looking for somebody just to come on, just talk about wrestling and talk about, the event that we were running with East Coast Pro Wrestling. And they eventually liked me. They said, wow, you're good at this. We want you to come back. So I started becoming a regular with them, and I started getting my toes wet with them and get my fingers in, and we started trying to grow something together. However, I personally think that there was that we were on the same road as a team, but we were in different lanes. So I think so that we all just went off on our separate ways. I wanted to go to broadcasting school. They wanted $13,000. I don't know where I was going to get $13,000 from, okay, to go pay for broadcasting school. So I said to myself, you know what? One day I'm going to go to broadcasting school. So in the meantime, the pandemic happened, and I started podcasting. I said, if I'm going to podcast, I'm going to do it well. So I went out and I bought the equipment. I don't recommend anybody going out to buy equipment. If you don't have the money, don't go buy the equipment. But I went and I bought the equipment. I bought me a board. I bought me a computer. I bought me a good microphone so I sound great. And I just started podcasting. I said, you know what? I want to talk about wrestling. I want to interview my friends. So I started by interviewing my friends. I did a season 1. When I listen to season 1 now, I cringe. I cringe listening to season 1. Because as you keep podcasting or creating, you get better, you grow. All right. So now we're in the pandemic, and I have a friend who has a YouTube channel, Dave Knows Wrestling. He says to me, hey, you want to come to my broadcasting school? I said, yeah. So we worked out a deal, and I was able to go to his broadcasting school for something that was really affordable, and he helped polish my skills. So when you go to YouTube, season 2 is video and audio. Looking at season 2 now, I cringe. I cringe. Look now, season 3, I took a 2-year break between podcasting. I didn't realize until a couple days ago that season 2 was only 6 episodes long. This season, I'm already a month into the season. I'm already 14 episodes in. So the burnout is eventually going to come, and I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go away and come back and learn a new trick. Because one of the things I always remember Jim Ross saying, in interviews and stuff like that, it's okay for wrestlers to leave the company and learn a new trick and come back. So the tricks that I have now is that I'm only live. My podcast is only live. I don't want to do anything that is pre-recorded. There's too much anxiety in it for me. And the second I record it, I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. That's terrible. And I end up editing the whole entire thing. I eventually landed a radio job where I worked on a radio. I worked on a country music radio station. Do I like country music? I didn't at the time, but the opportunity came along and they said, hey, you want to be on the radio? I said, yeah. They said, you like country music? I love country music. I'm so glad they didn't ask me who I liked because I would have lied. I would have exposed myself right then and there. So I utilized my skills that I have from working on the radio to live radio to working on this podcast. I hate live. I hate doing live. And everybody says, why do you hate live? I said, because it's live. They go, why do you love live? I said, because it's live. Because when it's live, anything can happen, anything can go wrong. But there's also an anxiety in there that's built onto that. And it's like, oh my God, I have a timer that counts down on my podcast when we go live on YouTube. And I'm like, oh my God, you got 3 minutes and 20 seconds. You got 2 minutes. You got a minute. You got 10 seconds. I'm like, okay, you have to hit the transition because they're waiting to see you. Deep breath, transition. Welcome to the Tristian Law Show. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Tristian Law. And then in that first breath, I let all the anxiety out. And that's what I'm here doing now. Right now, what I'm doing is on my podcast, the Tristian Law Show, which is live on YouTube, Tuesdays and Fridays at noon. What I'm doing is I'm exploring my love for pro wrestling. As a young pro wrestler, learning from the Dudley Boys, learning from Nunzio, learning from everybody else, you're always taught to not be a mark, right? To not be a super fan. And the way I look at it now that I'm a lot older, the biggest marks are the one in the ring. Because we sat there and got so enamored by what happened on the television that we decided to go pay money and learn how to do it. We are the biggest marks, okay? So what I do is I express my love for pro wrestling and my fandom on my YouTube channel. What I'm working on as well, too, is doing live interviews. So I'm going to go back to the interview aspect like I did before, but it's going to be 100% live. And yeah, that's the Tristian Law Show. That's where I am. That's how I am today. And I encourage everybody to check it out. I work hard at it. I don't want people to subscribe just because I'm asking you to subscribe. I want you to go look at my channel, look at season 3, love what I'm doing, and say, you know what? I want to come back, subscribe, because those are the people that I want. I don't want people that just want to support me. I want people that want to subscribe because they genuinely care about what I'm doing.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, like, that was a lot. Like, first being a podcaster, going back, because this is we're in the hundreds, but like I think 116, 117 as far as episodes, and that's across maybe 4 seasons there. But what a lot of people don't know is doing these types of podcasts and starting out, especially I'm a more introverted person, like off camera, and I go back and listen to the first maybe 2 to 3 seasons, and they've gotten better each time, but
Right.
You start from somewhere and you figure out where to go and what to do along the way, and it's all a process in terms of getting better. And I always I look at my previous episodes, almost like an athlete is watching film. Okay, what did
Right.
I do
Yes.
wrong?
Yes.
And try to clean that up, going forward. I'm gonna watch episodes from the last 6 months and see what I did wrong and try to figure it out. So I say that to say the podcast, and it doesn't matter. It could be music production, it could be professional wrestling, it could be cooking, it could be whatever you want it to be, but you're gonna get better each time. And secondly, to yourself, man, definitely glad you did come back. One of the things that I try to do in the wrestling space itself is support, black creators, black wrestlers, because I feel like that, from the outside looking in the industry, it's tough, generally speaking, for people of color. And then, even with that, like friends and family may see, yeah, because I know, like in music production and just a lot of the stuff that we do, you don't always get the support that you genuinely want. You want people to support you, but like you said as well, you want people that's truly into what you're doing that is supporting you. So, I'm glad you came back, and I look forward to, what you continuously do. With that also being said, like there's been a lot that has been covered, recently in the pro wrestling world. Recently we had the return of Roman Reigns.
Mm.
But like, what would you say, since you brought back your podcast, is probably the biggest thing that you've covered thus far in season 3, is it?
Yeah, we're in season 3 right now on YouTube live Tuesdays and Fridays at noon Eastern. One of the biggest things that I honestly covered, and that's just based on the views alone, is SummerSlam. SummerSlam, anything related around SummerSlam. So I didn't want to do a SummerSlam pre-show, but I said to myself, you know what, you're going to be home that morning. Just do the pre-show. It gives you something to do, something to talk about, extra content. So I did it, and I just watched the numbers blow up. And because of that, people will just come in and just take a look at other things. They go, wow, we like this. Let's see what else this guy does. So, shout out to the WWE. And that's why one of the things I always say is that when the WWE does good, everything around pro wrestling does well. Okay, I'm glad that Impact, that TNA is still around. I'm glad that AEW is around. And I'm glad that WWE is still at the top, because whatever it is that WWE is doing, believe it or not, in pro wrestling, there's a little bit of tribalism. Oh, I don't watch AEW. Oh, I don't watch WWE because of whatever reason. Oh, I don't watch any of those. I watch international wrestling. Good for you. But remember, here in North America, when the WWE is doing well, everybody eats. Everybody sits at the table. We all like to pretend like we don't. Like WWE's over there, Impact's over there, AEW's over there. No, we're all at the table. And because of WWE, I'm doing well. Thank you for the WWE for that. Do I intend to talk about other things? Yeah, outside the WWE? Yeah, but I'm a WWE guy. I grew up in the Northeast of the United States, so that's what I know. That's what I love. So, the SummerSlam, WWE SummerSlam with the return of Roman Reigns, I did a pre-show and a post-show, a reaction show after that. And those numbers blew up. So I said, you know what? I didn't want to do another show surrounded by talking about what's happening in the WWE PLE, because I didn't want to talk about stuff that are happening now. I don't want to be going there talking about headlines that are happening now. But you know what? It's lucrative. It's what the people want. So I'll be doing a Bash at Berlin pre-show and predictions the morning of WWE Bash at Berlin, which is coming on Peacock. So I'll definitely be doing that. Maybe
Yeah.
WWE watching. Maybe they say, hey, you know what? We like this brother. Let him come down and come talk at the event. Let him be a part of the pre-show. Maybe that's something that's in the future. I don't know. But D, I'm telling you this. Based on season 3, I feel like I'm doing something right. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something right. I feel like I'm getting more traction than before on YouTube, and people like my YouTube channel is not new. It's not new. I've been podcasting this podcast, the Tristian Law show, since 2020, and I'm climbing to 100 subscribers. People are like, oh, wow, you only have 100 subscribers? If you have less than 100? Right now, I think I have 72. And one day I'm going to have 7,000. And WWE is going to say, you know what? Maybe we want this guy. and I'm gonna go see my barber, get my beard lined up real nice and fresh, and I'm gonna be on the plane and I'm gonna be talking about what I love.
Yeah, fresh with the tux. I want to see you
That's
up
right,
there on the panel.
brother. I'll be in the tux. Let me tell you something. I don't tell people too many of this, but I'll tell people this. I have a great job. I work for the state and the city of New York on the subway. Okay, I have a really good job. But I said to myself, if the WWE comes calling that they want me to be a panelist, you know what, man? Opportunity knocks only so loud. I'm looking at it as like, hey, do you like country music? I don't like country music, but I love it. I'll go do it. I'll go do it. I'm leaving my good job with a pension to go work for the WWE if that's the opportunity that came along. If Impact Wrestling, TNA, or AEW came along and said, hey, we like your style. We want you to be a part of our pre-show panel. You know what? I'm going to go do it because I know they probably don't want me in the ring as a wrestler, and I'm okay with that. Okay. But because I was in the ring as a wrestler, I understand what goes on, and I can articulate that as a fan to the people that are watching and include the excitement as well, too.
Yeah, man. Those are once in a lifetime opportunities that you can't pass up. Similarly, um, there's like Ruckus. I don't know if you know for he does the music for AEW, but like
Yes.
hearing his story, how he connected with indie wrestlers and made music, that's something even like the friend that I was telling you about, he had asked me to make a theme, a while ago for him, and it's something that I've kind of thought about, and I wouldn't mind doing at some point as well. We'll see if that opportunity presents itself, because I got music in a gaming space, but I would be really like honored, or it's a really like bucket list item for me to make a theme song for somebody one day to come out to. So we'll see. It's something that I want to make happen. Now, one of the other questions we got, if you could change one thing about, because I think like today, with all the different companies, with all the different options, that wrestling is in a pretty good place. You even got the indies that, you don't see in TV locally. And I always say, support your local indies, because they're the people that you could see on TV next
100%.
couple of years. I mean, I actually saw what's his name? Bounty Keith, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he used to wrestle a lot here in Texas, and now he's on AEW, and it's just kind of cool to see him go from the indies to, being on a bigger platform. But like, what's one thing that you could change about the wrestling industry right now, or maybe even like when it comes to fans?
Man, I definitely piggybacking off that comment that you said about you never support the indies. You never know who you'll see. If you watch that Damian Priest documentary that just came on WWE, the same time Damian Priest was there, I was there. I worked in the ring with Damian Priest, and the referee Eddie Orengo that they had in the documentary, that was his tag team partner, and me and
Wow.
my tag team partner wrestled both of them. Okay, so you never know when you're at the indies who you're watching and where they'll be tomorrow. And that's anybody from the cameraman to the wrestler, from the person selling tickets at the door to the person that's grabbing gear to bring jackets and stuff to bring to the back. But one of the things that I would change about wrestling today, change nothing. It makes wrestling what it is. The tribalism, even though the tribalism has to be there, right? Everybody loves the Yankees, and you can't tell them that the Mets is any better. Yankee Stadium is not that far from Shea Stadium, from Met Stadium. It's not that far from Shea Stadium. They're really close to each other, right? But there's that rivalry. It's only one borough over. If there's no traffic, you could probably drive from Yankee Stadium to Shea Stadium in 25 minutes. Okay. Um, I would not change the diehardness about pro wrestling. Like, we love what we love. There are people out there that tell us, "Oh, how can you watch pro wrestling? The ending is predetermined, and it's not real." So is the whole Marvel universe that you spent money for.
Yeah.
This is my universe. I can't connect with the Marvel universe, because I don't really know that things about comics. But I'll go watch a movie. But that's what I like. I like wrestling. No, let me rephrase it. I love wrestling. Okay, I've cried because of wrestling. I never forget the time sitting at WrestleMania 35 and watching Kofi Kingston win that championship.
Oh
I
man.
boo-hooed in the audience. I
Yeah.
boo. I'm surprised I didn't get put on camera because the camera was in my face. Okay, but I boo-hooed. I was up there jumping up and down, boo-hooing. Right? I'll never forget the moment that if you watch the TNA video where Elix Skipper is running on the top of the cage, if you look in the audience, I'm standing right there in a white t-shirt. I will never forget those things. I will never change the fans. I won't change anything. What I will change, though, what I would change, recommend to change, and I'll tell you why I would change and why I would not change it. I would recommend, I would want the change of the wrestling in AEW. You don't need 5,000 super kicks to beat somebody. Okay? Because Shawn Michaels to beat The Undertaker with maybe one, and it's The Undertaker. So he gave him two, maybe three. But we're doing 10 in a match. However, here's why I wouldn't change it. That's what the fans in AEW like. They're different from WWE, and that's what they like. That's what brought everybody to the dance. So you know what? Let's just play with that. There's no need to change what is not broken. To the WWE, it is broken. But to AEW, it is not broken. AEW, I think they do pro wrestling really well. And then sports entertainment second. I think that WWE does sports entertainment extremely well, and they do pro wrestling just as good. And then TNA, they fall right in the middle. They do both. They cater to both fans. If you're a diehard wrestling fan and you don't care about the characters or you want a good match, you can watch AEW. But if you want a strong form of entertainment to where you'll be able to laugh and cry, you watch WWE, but you'll get a really good match as well too. So what would I change right now in wrestling? Nothing. Leave it as it is. I just want it to further evolve. And all I ask is for when fans see wrestlers in public, give them a little bit of respect. If they're eating, let them eat with their families. Give them a little bit of respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the pro wrestling industry is in a really good place right now. I think WWE is thriving with Triple H as the head of creative. I think that AEW had their ups and downs, but I think 2024 they're kind of slow rise, but they're getting back to it. I think TNA has had kind of like a renaissance themselves in some ways with just some of the people that they brought in. So, I mean, you got three good, strong North American companies, and internationally there are several options as well. But I think we never had those types of options. I mean, back in the 90s, it was WCW. WWF at the time and then
ECW.
ECW.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I remember we couldn't watch ECW in Louisiana because we just couldn't catch them. So I
Right.
would read about them in magazines. But I would like to imagine what that social media be like back then compared to now had we been arguing online.
I think that ECW in this day and age would have blown up because the way I watched ECW back in the day when I shouldn't have been watching ECW as a teenager, I had no business watching that. But thank you, Paul Heyman, for all the people that put on those shows. I used to have to watch it on public access. And for those of you that don't know what public access is, public access in was a couple of channels where it was independent programming. Some of it would be government stuff, but if you were a person that was interested in TV, you can produce your own show and send it into public access on a schedule, and they would air it for you every week. Or if you needed a studio, you would go to the studio and you could produce your show there. So that was pre YouTube, and imagine YouTube now with ECW, it would have just blown up. It would have
Oh
blown.
yeah.
ECW would still be around if ECW was able to survive into the internet era.
Yeah, it's so many what ifs if ECW would have stayed thriving and Paul Heyman doesn't ever get to WWE. WCW, if Eric Bischoff finds a way to keep them afloat, that was one of the most disappointing things that I've seen post or for me like yeah, it was kind of like because I graduated high school in 2000 and 2001 WCW ended and it was just like it was kind of that point in my life for me. Like you said, you go on and do other things, but you always still come back to pro wrestling, and I felt that's what kind of happened after that for me. But I would have liked to seen if they would have stayed open. Now, where can our viewers find, the Tristan Law Show, follow you at as well?
Well, right now I'm really big on threads. I don't use Twitter, I don't use X, I don't use any of that. So if you're looking to interact with me when it comes to pro wrestling, or you need some food, you're coming to visit New York City, you need some food ideas, I'm good for that. You can just follow me on threads at the real Big Tris. TheRealBigTris. The real Big Tris. You can follow me there on threads. You can go follow me on Instagram too if your heart moves you. But if you're looking to watch the podcast, you want to learn about me, you want to learn about pro wrestling, you want to have a YouTube channel that interacts with the fans, follow me. Find me on YouTube at the Tristan Law Show. TristenLawshow. The Tristan Law Show. Look me up there. Subscribe if you like it. And that's the biggest compliment to me is if you subscribe. Every morning I wake up, I look to see if I have any new subscribers, and I'm humbled. The reason why I'm humbled is because somebody took the time out of their day. They gave me one of their most precious assets, and that's time. That's time to watch one of my videos. Man, you gave me your precious time to watch one of my videos, and you decided to subscribe. If you are watching this right now and you subscribe, understand that I'm grateful for you. And understand that when you post a comment, I interact with your comments. What I also do in respect for everybody's time is that not everybody has time to sit around and watch a 30 minute to 1 hour podcast. Nobody has time for that. You might have kids, you might have to go to work, you might not have time for that. So what I do is I clip out small segments of the episodes and I repost them on YouTube. So if you have time for that, stick around for that. If you don't have, if maybe one day you'll have time to watch a long format episode. But you know what? Stick around for the clips. You can still get the gist of what I do, and you can watch me grow. And with that I said, I appreciate you finding me on YouTube. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. There's quite a few guests that have came on that are also wrestling fans. I see like some references and hear some references in their music. So stay tuned. I think that you'll gain some new people as well. And I really enjoy what you're doing, brother, and glad to have had you on to talk some wrestling with you and just about what you do and want to continue to see you thriving.
Definitely, bro. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have met you. I love the platform that we're on. We're on Threads. I recommend everybody go on Threads. The reason why I say to go on Threads is because you can carve out your corner of the world. Whatever it is that you like, you can carve it out. And I carve out professional wrestling. And brother, that's why I'm sitting in front of you here today, because I carved that out and we talked about wrestling. Maybe one day WrestleMania will come to a town near us and we'll both meet up there. And you know what? If you drink, we'll split it. We'll have a daddy soda together. We'll have 2 beers together. If that's what you do, okay? So I appreciate you. I look forward to our friendship growing. I wish you the best with your podcast. I hope people start watching and just never stop dreaming, man. Just always start thinking of ways that your podcast can grow and reach more people, because I don't compete. My podcast doesn't compete with you, even if we're in the same exact realm. The reason why it doesn't compete is because you can watch them in whichever order you want, whenever you want. So I don't compete with you. I promote you, you promote me. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, as far as like the WrestleMania, I may be there next year
I'm
in
thinking
Vegas.
about it. In Vegas, I'm
Yeah,
thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it as well. We'll see when the information comes out.
Right.
Well, I'm already a big Raiders fan, so it's kind of like I go to the games and I wouldn't mind being in Vegas for that as well. So we'll see. Definitely linking up there. And yeah, man, I mean, I go to a lot of shows. I'd like to go to a show in another city because I'm in Dallas and I've never been to one of the pay-per-views though. WrestleMania's been
Pay-per-views
here
are dope.
twice since I
Pay-per-views are
lived.
dope. Yo, bro, pay-per-views are so. You ever been to a Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, I've been on
Okay, it's
Monday
way
night.
better. It's way better. You ever been to a live show? A live
Yeah,
event?
yeah.
Okay. So the way I rank them in order of like shows that you used to watch, everybody should watch a Raw or a SmackDown. Just check it off your list. I've watched the Raw. I watched maybe one Raw. I went to the Raw after WrestleMania in Orlando, the last WrestleMania Orlando. I went to that one, and then I've been to numerous PLE pay-per-views, and I've been to maybe two live events. The
Okay.
last one in the Meadowlands, right next to Giant Stadium, before they demolished that place to turn into a parking lot or a mall, whichever one it was. But when you go to a live event, it's different because the wrestlers are having more fun. They don't have TV time. They're out there having fun. And when you go to a pay-per-view, it's nonstop. It doesn't stop. It's not like Raw and SmackDown when you're watching and you go, oh, the house lights went down. They're on commercial. Okay, we'll just wait. We'll sit in our hands. Oh, the lights are back. All right, they're back. When you're at a PLE, a pay-per-view, it's nonstop from the first bell to the last bell.
Man. Yeah, I've been to two Monday Night Raws. One like actually in my hometown of Lafayette, Louisiana, in I think it was the 99 or 2000. I remember Stephanie McMahon had won the women's title there.
Uh-huh.
And then I've been to Raw 2017 and I went to SmackDown this year. And I've been to a couple of AEW events as well, but like yeah, just going to a pay-per-view, that would be something totally different to experience. And I'm gonna do that in the next probably year or so. We'll see where. You could follow me on Instagram at d._major music. Same thing on TikTok, and if you use the threads as well, I'm on there as Tristian mentioned. And if you like this episode, please go ahead, subscribe. Like to post interviews with other creators, kind of like we did today, just to talk about their background, their journey, and more. And I appreciate Tristian for taking the time to spend with us today and connecting with him. And look forward to what he's got going as well, moving forward. And best of luck, brother.
Thank you very much. Don't forget, Tuesdays and Fridays, live at noon on YouTube, live episodes of the Tristian Law Show.
Check out the Tristian Law Show. It's D. Dot and Tristian Law, and we are out.
Major music.